Howdy, and welcome to the Mount Rushmore podcast. My name is Michael, and I am the host this week. I'm joined always by my good friends Jeff.
Hello.
And my other good friend, Richard.
Hello.
This week on the Mount Rushmore podcast, we are discussing the Mount Rushmore of vanity projects, and this is my topic. And this is also a week where we've switched roles. We take the mask off, and we just kind of put them in a bucket and put them back on and see who's the judge, and it's me.
It's like a big key party, except no sex.
Yeah.
Wait, the night is young, gentlemen.
That's true.
And, vanity projects. And, of course, you know, I don't necessarily consider this podcast a vanity project. It is more of like a cheap way to do like therapy. For three of us.
Yes.
We can tell our own stories and just talk about things that we like. And maybe that is a vanity project. And maybe
well, you know,
that would
you
be on
didn't
your
say
list.
vanity side project. Do we think that that's a different thing?
That's a good question.
Okay.
I maybe with a band, sometimes the band becomes the actual project of the lead singer. And maybe it isn't necessary. Maybe he or she goes off to do a side project as a vanity project, but then in reality, maybe I haven't thought about it.
Yeah.
I
I would be interested along the way if you as the host deem it necessary to discuss the ways we view this topic and what makes something a vanity project versus something that's just a crazy thing that somebody did that ends up being very valid and relevant to the world. I guess that's how it's received.
Richard, can you object and say leading the judge?
No, he's good.
Okay.
Well, I'm the judge. this
Objection overruled.
I
Sidebar, please, Your Honor.
I think the reason I chose this, I don't know, it just seems like it is so prevalent in our world.
Yeah.
Vanity and the idea that that one is more important than someone else, that one puts their image out there or in a band situation, feels the need to take the lead beyond what really should exist.
Yeah. I think the trappings of celebrity in any avenue invite people who think they might find a dollar or some kind of fame themselves from encouraging you to do any idiotic thing that you want to. So that's when Shatner sings or something. I just gave away my first choice.
Yeah. Well, Richard, did you go first last week or did Richard? Or did
I judged last week.
You judged. Do you remember who went first, Jeff or me?
You did.
I did.
You're the one who reminded me the most of Blackula.
Oh, that's right.
That's right.
Well, Richard, why don't you go first?
Sure. All right, my first choice is the 1984 Paul McCartney,
Give my regards.
in quotes, comedy.
Yeah.
Give my regards to Broad Street. So Paul McCartney, he always wanted to be a filmmaker. This was as much of his dream growing up as being a musician. And I guess you could argue that his previous attempt at being a filmmaker, and again I'm using air quotes, avant-garde magical mystery tour is the thing that almost broke up the Beatles. And so give my regards to Broad Street. You can kind of look at it as maybe a course correction, or maybe you just look at it as a rotten, poorly executed film.
Yeah.
Could go either way, because this thing, I remember watching this as a 10 or 11-year-old on my brother-in-law's, what were not the DVDs, but they were
8-track.
the big ones.
Oh, reel to reel?
No.
Oh, Laserdisc.
Laserdisc.
Sorry, yeah.
He had a Laserdisc, and our video store had a very small collection of Laserdisc, and this was one of them. And I remember thinking, oh, I love the Beatles. How bad could this be?
Here's a question. I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Does this necessarily go out of its way to paint Sir Paul in a good light, or is it just like, this is something as I'd like to do? I don't know which Beatle that was. I think it's all of them
Yogi
at the
Bear,
same time.
the Yogi Beetle.
Hey,
boo boo.
Is it like, this is Paul in the spotlight, not that he has ever been out of the spotlight for
Yeah,
all
I
of
think
his
there's
life?
an element of that. So here's the basic plot, is that the master tapes for Paul McCartney's next album are due the next day. He has to get it to the slimy business people who never really explained exactly who they are. So he entrusts his ex-con friend to deliver it to him. Well, he goes missing, and slimy business people are saying, well, if you don't find it and get it to us in the next 24 hours, we're going to take over your record label. Which I don't think that's how business works. I'm no record company executive myself, but I don't think it works that way.
We just watched a little bit of The Little Mermaid, now that we are just fully ingrained in Disney Plus, and Felix tapped out within like 7 minutes. But like by the time Ursula signs on, like gets Ariel to sign on the dotted line, she has 3 days to fall in love. That seemed egregious.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
This contract, I don't think, would hold up in
No.
court.
I don't know about British law, though. So to be fair,
That's true. There's a barrister involved.
That's from with a wig, powdered wigs.
a Yogi barrister. So the whole movie is basically, it's a combination of this half-assed attempt to try to find the guy in the master tapes, and then a lot of these then also these fantasy sequences that kind of come out of nowhere that don't really tie into anything else, it seems like. And then this sort of a day in the life of Paul McCartney. And he's recording something with Ringo.
What year was this?
84. And, it's, there's Linda McCartney, because that's what we need more of in our lives is Linda. That's
more
what
Linda
That's
singing.
what people were just dying for in 1984. Yeah. I've heard her sing. Now can I see her act?
Yeah. Do you think what some friends have been working on entertainment in that's now streaming on or headed to digital platforms like Netflix and Amazon and Apple TV and all that stuff that was originally podcast based. And I feel like when a new medium arrives, like a comic, like the music video did, there are people who are ready to just add a bunch more money to it and therefore make a lot more money. So I think...
Where are those people for us?
Well, God bless.
Dear, please,
are you listening?
Please.
So whenever I examine something like that, I think of like the thing. Was there a place where it worked? And I don't know if I could say there was a thing that was like Broad Street that worked, but I know other people were doing it. Like Dennis DeYoung, there was that Desert Moon video.
Oh, sure.
And that was a full-length musical at some point.
Well, then there's
Mr. Roboto was a full-length musical.
Neil Young had movies that he did.
Yeah.
Like with Devo co-starring that was very out there.
I almost feel like Macca could have planned for this to be something that's small, and people just kind of encouraged it up to this Titanic proportion thing that could never achieve much.
But yet it's also so half-assed. That's the amazing part, is that it's, and on one part it's very like, well, we're going to show the story of my life, a day in the life.
Yeah.
See what I did there? Day
oh, brilliant.
I'm taking points off for every time you say it. Do you see what I did there? Because yes, every listener of this podcast.
We hear what you did there.
Yes.
Yeah, and nobody's happy about it.
There goes our money that people are going to invest to take us out of the garage.
But it's, on one hand, it is this very
Octopus's Garden.
Mm-hmm.
Get it?
Ah.
Do you see what he did there?
No, I don't. I'm very confused.
May I approach the bench?
Punch. So anyway, it's at one hand it's this very Paul McCartney centric thing that's all about his life and what he does, and on the other hand, there's this half-assed what should be the main plot, but what quickly becomes like the B or C plot, and it's bad, you guys. It's really bad.
Yeah.
Well, I find it interesting that a group of one of four people who have possibly been described as bigger than Jesus still needs the feeling of needing to put himself out.
Oh,
yeah.
And also the soundtracks. The soundtrack is no good. And when you take the soundtrack and the movie together and how lazy and kind of schlocky it is, it kind of sums up where his career was going for most of the rest of the 80s.
Well, if you look back to a earlier episode in the season of Shitty Things About the Beatles, I believe I pointed out that like their post-Beatles careers were just kind of like, meh.
Well, I would argue, and maybe I did on the podcast, I don't remember, like Wings was pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good.
And
you needed a qualifier there before good.
A couple of the early 80s albums, like Tug of War, wasn't bad. But once you hit this, man, the rest of the 80s is rough.
You may have this in your notes, Richard, but if you didn't like the movie, you probably wouldn't have liked the video game based on the film released for the Commodore 64 and Sinclair ZX Spectrum.
The best games were released for the Sinclair, by the way.
I like this more now. Jeffrey.
So basically, the game was that if I remember correctly, the tapes wind up going missing again, and it's for one song that was supposed to be like the lead single. So it's almost like this E.T. Remember the E.T. game on Atari?
Oh, for sure.
So it's kind of like that, except you have to go and find the other musicians who helped you work on the song and record all of the missing pieces.
This is awful.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's great.
Beautiful.
Jeffrey?
Yes, sir.
What is your first choice?
Well, I was trying to find things that I really had a relationship with, and I'm a big fan of 60s television stars who had a career dip afterwards. There's a guy named Adam West who I'm a big fan of, and William Shatner is another one of those dudes. And I was fascinated to learn that the Transformed Man, this album of speak-sung, spoken word type of music that he did, was not done during a career dip. It was actually a quickie one-off 45-minute recording session while shooting Star Trek that he, I think, actually forgot that he even did.
Oh.
Yeah, Ben Folds chatted with him because they worked together on an album, and he had explained to Ben, like, it was just something his agent recommended, and something he did as kind of a quickie one-off in between, like on his lunch break.
Right.
And anybody who knows William Shatner's career as an actor knows that he is prone to histrionics and very powerful performances. And
that's one way to put it.
Yeah, and this album is definitely falls into that category. The track listing is King Henry V, Elegy for the Brave, the theme from Cyrano, Mr. Tambourine Man, which has him shouting as if Mr. Tambourine Man has forgotten his wallet and he's running away.
Right.
Mr. Tambourine Man! Towards the end. Hamlet is very good year. Romeo and Juliet, how insensitive. Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds.
That's a good one.
Yeah, and The Transformed Man. So this also, I think, capitalized on his sci-fi career. On the back, he's holding up something like what looks something like a laser gun.
Right.
But it is indeed just a folded up tripod.
Did this precede Leonard Nimoy's career?
The Ballad of Bilbo Baggins?
Yeah, I think it was after. Because I've learned a little bit about that, and those people who were just so rushing to throw money at the success of Star Trek. So
this kind of falls into that. We kind of talked about this a long time ago on. This is like a throwback episode of the Halloween songs. Where there's just so much. There's a clamor for like jokey, silly.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
And I would love to say, did Chekhov ever put out an album?
Well,
where was the one that was by Bones? Yeah.
I think the Patrick McGowan Christmas album or the William Koenig. I think these albums that because they have a celebrity on the cover, they stay in the record bin, they live long enough to outlive their genre. And there was a spoken word genre, in which many people, including Sebastian Cabot, all these people were doing these singing albums, and they were popular and they were selling, and it was real.
Lauren Green was another one.
Lauren Green, that's right, yeah. But
so by the way, Nimoy 67, Shatner 68.
68, okay. They seem eons apart. Actually,
that makes it seem like a vanity project. That makes it seem like.
Well, Nimoy did it.
If Nimoy can do it,
I can do it better.
I'm the captain of this ship. I've got to be able to get in there and put my tracks down and be on the cover.
I think Burt Ward did record an album before Adam West did. So
didn't you say that the Burt Ward one was basically another one where like his management basically said you should do this, and he's like, I don't know how to sing.
Yeah, I don't think any of them had a huge career in musical theater beforehand. So yeah.
I do love the William Shatner persona because it feels like everything he's done has been all just tied into vanity.
Yeah.
Like just the way that he speaks on camera, the James Kirk character, it feels all just a look at me sort of character. It even transferred over to, it feels like on Futurama, the I can't remember the name of the captain that was an asshole, but
Zap Brannigan.
Brannigan feels very quirky and vain.
Oh yeah,
and all about himself.
I will say that character clearly existed in pulp adventure tropes beforehand. But if you said that you're trying to sell a sci-fi ensemble drama to Middle America, and the captain was going to be this science officer like Spock, everybody would have said, hell no. Yeah. He's got to be this swaggering, sexy guy who can make everything just kind of swarthy and swashbuckling. And Shatner could sit in a chair, could ooze swagger, and then go on a bad planet set and fight a bad space monster in practical slow motion and do it in a way that you kind of like, yeah, hey, man, so swagger. So whatever it was that didn't work so well on an album was firing on all cylinders on TV. So hats off to him. But later on, I feel like Shatner was outside of the joke, then he got in. Like later on, he's doing spots, he's doing commercials. He was on the AFI tribute to George Lucas, and he did Shatner to a T, singing "I Did It My Way," and just over the top. You know, he knows what he's doing now. He's in on the joke now.
"I Did It My Way" is the #1 song of Boomer Dads.
Oh,
to be like, this is the song
yeah.
that everyone needs to know and love. It's like, this song is
yeah.
Let's ignore this song forever.
Yeah.
Richard.
Yes.
Your second choice for Vanity Project.
All right, another movie, 2006's The Lady in the Water.
Oh wow.
Directed by M. Night Shyamalan. Mm-hmm. It's where he casts himself as a writer whose words are so important that they will eventually save all of humanity.
Oh.
Yeah, nothing
vain there.
No ego stroking happening there.
Yeah.
Also, there's a film critic character who gets killed about midway through the movie.
Symbolism.
Is a total idiot asshole, and is supposed to be someone that you're rooting for to get killed. Certainly no
agenda there.
At all. Plus, there's a nymph-like character called a narf. Yeah, that's right. Just like the Pinky used to say on Pinky and the Brain. Just the amount. I haven't seen this, and judging by the box office, most people didn't. I think
this came out after The Village, which I liked, but this felt. I remember it being described as a modern day fairy tale, and I thought, I don't need that.
Yeah.
It was the whole plot was so incomprehensible that the head of Disney Studios basically said, I don't understand this. Mm-hmm. I'll go ahead and finance it, but just so you know, I don't really understand what you're doing with this. And in another kind of point of hubris, Mr. Shyamalan said, you know what? Screw you. I'm going to go to Warner Brothers just because you said you don't understand what the project is. Even though he had been working at Touchstone/Disney from the beginning. Yeah. That this was the thing that just broke him, where he said, I can't work with you if you don't understand the complexity and the depth of this project. It's just this incredible amount of hubris. They made he had a book made of the making of it because he thought this was going to be such an important film. The book is called The Man Who Heard Voices, which, from what I understand, it's just as self-aggrandizing as the title would indicate. And this was like the beginning of the end for him. Because even The Village, I know that a lot of people who watched it, and I didn't see it, but I know what the twist is. I won't spoil the twist, but it's a bad twist from what I understand. It was a twist that got many people very upset.
I don't know. I liked The Village. M. Night Shyamalan had made previous appearances in movies, in his own movies. In a
Contact.
Not Contact.
Signs.
Signs. Sorry.
So I had Sixth Sense. He did like a thing where he would do like
his Hitchcockian
smaller role. It was a little bit more than Hitchcock, but like usually a kind of as a doctor or something like that. This one he cast himself in a lead kind of role that is like I said, the writer who is going to save all of humanity with his philosophy.
Yeah,
that's a step up in class.
That's troubling.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes me like him a lot less. It's funny. He's a guy that I could also like at some point have like no opinion on, and then you hear something like this, and you're like, "Oh, okay. Well, let's just move him down a few pegs." Just hearing the story.
What I think is interesting is the story when he was a successful filmmaker with Sixth Sense and Unbreakable. He was celebrated by some parts of some renegades within the industry as being the guy who defied the development business. So we think of like filmmaking is one thread that runs through Hollywood. Surrounding it are 90% of the people who are employed by Hollywood whose job it is to develop films. Not make films, just develop them. We're going to get a new writer on that. We're going to get a fresh set of eyes on that. We're in turnaround on this. We don't know we're going to recast this. All these people whose job it is to go to sit in offices and look busy and go out to lunch with people and pretend that they're doing things. So here comes this guy who has Final Cut. He's the writer, director. He's a producer. Nobody can do shit on these movies, and they're making millions of dollars.
It's the last vestige of the auteur era in the 70s.
Yeah, but he is untouchable. So this guy...
Unbreakable is the movie.
Unbreakable. This guy...
Not The Untouchables. That's a different movie.
Okay. So this guy is Teflon. Nobody can do anything to him. So you're mad at this guy. But this guy is just like a guy like George Lucas, who's going to succeed until he stops, because he doesn't even listen to an audience. He doesn't care what an audience thinks. He doesn't care what feedback he gets.
Yeah, as I was doing the research for this, when I reached that point about the Disney studio head, I thought...
That was Dick Cook and Nina Jacobson.
Yeah, and it was Dick Cook who said he didn't understand it.
Yeah.
And when I read that, I thought, well, this is one of the few times where studio meddling would have been appreciated.
Yeah.
Like, it would have actually helped. Because if you think back to the 70s, kind of cinema days, yes, Dennis Hopper could do Easy Rider.
Yeah.
But then he would have carte blanche and then do something completely terrible.
Yeah.
Or Michael Cimino doing Deer Hunter, so then the next thing he gets is carte blanche, and he's able to do Heaven's Gate, which almost went down on my list as one of the movies, because it was such a vanity project and sort of blown smoke up his own ass.
Yeah.
So it kind of reminds me of that. Like you said, he's successful until he's not, and it was almost, at some point, it was set up for him to fail spectacularly, and this is where it happened.
Yeah. Okay.
J-Dog.
Yes.
Numero dos.
My numero dos.
Hit me with your hit me with your thoughts on the pod right now. Go.
I saw this film in the theater, and it was a Rocky Horror style situation where everybody's talking back to the film, and I had
Schindler's
not heard
List.
of it. It was
Don't get in the train.
March of the Penguins.
Don't get in the
train. It was The Room. Now it's kind of celebrated as a flop, a big stupid flop, and so I think we associate vanity projects with people who already have some established success or power.
Yeah.
Tommy Wiseau was not an industry insider or a celebrity or anything like that, but he had enough money to just do whatever the fuck he wanted to. So he had succeeded in merchandising trinkets on Pier 39 or whatever, and somehow had all this money. And my perspective on this film in terms of how it was horrible was kind of expanded after reading the nonfiction book, The Disaster Artist.
A great book.
Yeah, it's a great book. And it informed me from an artistic standpoint that even vanity projects, that individual might be so clouded in their own, kind of high on their own supply, but they're still trying to do a good thing because they want to keep the love train going from everybody. Maybe they're not listening to as many of their artistic collaborators as they did before. Maybe those people have flipped, like everyone else around them, from a friend to a yes person. But Tommy Wiseau had the best intentions of being not just a brilliant actor, but a beloved American normal person. I think that's all he ever just wanted to be. And so this character that Tommy Wiseau plays in the film is this all-American guy who is almost like your big brother kind of character. Hey, let's throw the football around. I'm buying flowers. Everybody knows me.
He's a businessman of some sort of
he's kind of playing this beloved kind of figure who doesn't know how to throw a football, doesn't know how to talk to people,
how to interact in any sort of human way.
Any way. And Greg Sestero, who was his collaborator and friend, does a really good job of describing his good intent and describing this individual who just wanted all the things that everybody else wants, this kind of love and acceptance and to be normal or to be beautiful or to be the leading person, and how it was expressed in a way that was just so bizarre and he was not listening to any of the professionals who he hired to work on this film. So I know this has become a cult film and almost like a midnight movie kind of thing, but I found it very telling in that somebody who had yet to accomplish amazing success had enough money to do a vanity project and to put himself out there. For all its bad acting, he's doing a lot of acting.
He's acting all over the place.
He's acting
much like Shatner.
Yeah.
You cannot question the volume
or
of
amount
acting. Of his acting.
Yeah.
I do appreciate this angle. This is the angle that is vanity born of your own self, not necessarily vanity born of a previous accomplishment.
Mm-hmm.
Like he has not earned the place to be vain within our society in terms of a vanity project. He has not gotten there as the lead singer of a band and then broken out and been like, I need to go my own way and do my own thing because I have been successful in this, or I am not this famed director of these half dozen beloved movies that everybody wants to see, so I am untouchable. Mm-hmm. He is a guy that sells trinkets that has made his money but still thinks of himself so much. Mm-hmm. That's pretty fascinating.
If he was an emperor of Rome, this is he would make a Colosseum, or he would make some beautiful architecture. But he's a nobody, so he would have built that really interesting wooden bridge, or something out in the middle of nowhere. This is his weird. So it's not a celebrity side project, but it's a vanity project.
No, yeah. A nice choice. We are at halftime. And I am going to forego begging people to listen to our show, to download, to rate and review.
We've
done that.
Yeah.
We are 199 episodes in. So I would like to just kind of look back at the last 20 minutes that we've been talking about this episode, and just some stray observations going into the second half.
Ooh, we're about to get roasted.
No, I want to give you guys an insight into for the second half to see maybe you can make some changes.
Oh, nice.
Maybe you want to see how I'm viewing it. First, I haven't seen any of these movies or listened to any of the albums that you guys have talked about yet. So I'm a complete blank slate.
Okay.
So I'm taking all of this in. This is all stuff that's like new. Even though I know William Shatner or know M. Night Shyamalan, I haven't seen that movie, haven't heard that album. So it's very interesting to have these vanity projects of things that like are just kind of out there in the ether. Number two, are all vanity projects necessarily bad? Because nothing that we've described so far has been good.
I don't know.
I'm just letting you know. So far, it's interesting that vanity projects are these things that are seen, like the idea of vanity is seen as a bad thing.
Yeah.
Nobody likes being vain. Nobody likes being seen as being vain. So when we think of something as a vanity project, we often think of it as like derogatory.
Yeah.
But maybe someone is just like it's the right thing for them to do is to go out there and to be like, yes, I'm a fucking superstar. Of course I'm going to go do this thing.
Yeah.
I'm the one. Yeah. I'm in this band, but like, the band is with me, and I'm gonna go do the me part of it, and I'm gonna make this thing incredible.
Well, Mike and the Mechanics, for one.
I can't believe they went back to being mechanics.
They're very good mechanics.
I was at this theme park in Anaheim called something Land.
Okay. Yeah.
And
joke.
It's got the statue of this guy right when you walk in. And then everywhere you go, there's this name of this guy.
We've all been to Knott's Berry Farm.
Mr. Don Knotts, his statue. Well,
that's so funny because there was somebody who was on some show talking about theme parks, and it was as if they'd forgotten that Walter Knott put his name on a theme park or like an amusement park first, but. If
I do like that Knott's Berry Farm is like the Frank from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia of theme parks. He's just swimming in the wake.
Yeah.
Just trying to get whatever leftovers. The people that don't go to Disneyland just like, just get the Knott's people.
When that park opened, everybody was calling it like Disney's folly, Disney's failed project. And now that it's a huge success, and I think what it has is a big place for people to live and craft their own stories and be a part of the story, and it gives back so much, and it has so much that isn't about this individual who created it. So I feel like, yes, I almost think any enterprise, anytime somebody steps in front of a microphone to record something or steps into the spotlight, is vanity. It's vanity. You've chosen yourself to be the person who's being looked at and listened to.
Yes.
But when it gets to the point where it seems to defy an audience, it defies whatever, at the point where it seems like the creator is absolutely inconsiderate of the quality or the reception of it, that's when it seems like vanity. Like, fuck you, I don't care whether you like it. I just want to be in front of everybody, like a presidency that is currently.
I would like to point out that Don Knotts Berry Farm could totally work.
That could totally work.
You could have, instead of the
Ghost and Mr. Chicken.
Yeah, instead of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea,
Mr.
you could have
Limpets.
the incredible Mr. Limpet
Yeah.
ride.
Yes.
You could have, instead of Frontierland, it could be the shakiest gun in the West.
Yes.
Land. This could work.
This is amazing.
They need to rebrand this.
Yeah.
Get this berry shit out
Where's
of here.
the Three's Company? Yeah.
Just the lounge.
Just the lounge.
I think that's the Hall of Presidents instead.
And we're back.
And we're back.
We're back from halftime, which felt like just another part of the show. Richard,
Hey,
hit me with number 3.
Hey, you know what's even better than Garth Brooks?
Oh, Chris Gaines?
Garth Brooks is an emo pop star.
Oh, my God.
Where do I sign the fuck up?
Man.
Yeah, that's right. Chris Gaines from right around 1999. This was a project
Did he spell it with a K?
No, it's just CHRIS.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah, no. This is a project he'd been percolating for a while. He had decided that partially he wanted to make a non-country album, but sort of felt like he was trapped in the persona of being Garth Brooks. So how do you get around this?
Mm-hmm.
You switch the one tone from one of your breastplates on your shirt to the other side.
Just completely, the vertical stripes you make them horizontal.
Yeah.
Don't you just do like a rally cap with your cowboy hat and just turn it upside down and be like, this is what I am now?
So he wanted to not only kind of explore these different styles of music, like he's always been a vocal Billy Joel fan and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
I also wanted to have a launch pad for his serious acting career. Except the movie never came about, so what you wound up having was a bunch of confused fans trying to figure out, why is he singing like Boyz II Men? And why does he look like, I don't know, Jane's brother Trent from Daria?
I did love the eyeliner.
The eyeliner. Actually, I mean, my favorite part was the little soul patch.
Yeah,
that he had.
my only experience with Chris Gaines was like an episode of SNL that he was.
Yeah.
When it was just like, that's Garth Brooks.
Yeah, well, it was Garth Brooks who hosted Saturday Night Live, but the musical guest was Chris Gaines.
That is ridiculous.
Which is even more ridiculous. They even did a faux behind the music with the whole backstory and life of Chris Gaines. Because they never got around to doing the actual movie. This is how they could set up the whole story of how I think he'd been in a car accident and maybe been disfigured. I don't fucking remember.
Would you say this is what, like 97, 98?
99.
99. Can you imagine all the failed Twitter accounts that are like set up? Like, can you imagine to take Twitter back to 1999 and have like at Chris Gaines and just the push that must have been out there.
Yeah.
Like, we've got to get Chris Gaines trending. Hashtag, Gaines in the USA. I'm sure we could work on better hashtags.
Weight gains.
Did you?
Yes.
Or were you going to discuss the film? Because there was a film that this was to be.
You mentioned there was a failed film.
Yeah, they never actually.
Was it about Chris Gaines?
It's a pre-soundtrack.
Yeah.
And that
it was supposed to be the life of Chris Gaines. It was almost supposed to be like this Eddie and the Cruisers type movie, where it's a reporter who was trying to find out what happened to Chris Gaines.
Yeah.
He had completely fallen off the map.
Yeah.
It was that sort of thing.
And we were the Chris Gaines that we got exposed to.
I have an interesting anecdote. I'll tell you
the film was called The Lamb, and it was revolved around Chris Gaines, and it was it was through his life. So we were seeing his emo phase, and he might have had other more authentic phases or more folky phases or something like that.
Yeah.
It was a thing. It seems like we looked through the keyhole at this one part of this bigger project, and unlike, say, Prince in Purple Rain, where he's playing like the kid, or he's playing like this himself, but he's not. He's called Prince in Purple Rain.
No, he's playing the kid.
He's the kid,
but it's basically himself.
Yeah, it's basically himself. He's doing much more of a character and much more of a derivation.
Yeah, he wanted this one. He wanted this. He wanted to be an actor.
Yeah.
There was a Marvel comic book sometime in like the early 2000s called The Sentry, and the character was like this all-powerful Superman type sort of guy that was supposedly a member of the Avengers, but somehow he turned bad. Yada yada yada. They tried to rewrite him in and retcon him into like the Avengers history as like this person that was like the forgotten superhero.
Oh,
he was the forgotten part of the Avengers that nobody seems to remember for whatever reason, because some dark version of the Sentry existed as well, called like the Void or
the Dinkelberg,
whatever it is
of the
out
Avengers.
there. I love the idea of like people trying to rewrite a history to be like, oh, you don't like. I can imagine the behind the music for this. I can imagine the VH1 special of.
Few people remember,
in like the poorly photoshopped 1999 like
version of him from 90 or something like that.
Yeah, this is
a young Chris Gaines.
That does take a lot of vanity to be like, yes, we need to create this incredible backstory for this fictional character for this movie and this album that I think is important, because I don't want to sing about cowboys and trucks and dogs and
also the hubris to go ahead and plow ahead with this project, even though the movie is not getting made.
Yeah,
that takes some cojones.
Yeah,
and it's one thing if the movie gets produced and it's ready to come out, and then you go through with the whole project and you sort of like. I would think that if the movie gets binned and doesn't get made, you just sort of release the album as, hey, this is a Garth Brooks album. I'm doing something different, doing some pop stuff. Don't worry, I'm still a country artist, but I want to try something different. Then you move on.
Yeah.
And even the reviews that I read online of the album, I remember the single was called Boston U. And it was harmless late 90s, early 2000s pop. It got not bad reviews. And I think I read on AllMusic, they basically said, look, if this had just been released as a Garth Brooks pop album, it probably would have been pretty well received. Hey, what a change of pace, something different. But the fact that it was tied up in this Chris Gaines insanity just sunk it.
Fine choice, Richard.
I look back at photos of myself wearing certain outfits, and I think, what was I thinking? At least it wasn't an album.
Trying to look like Chris Gaines.
I look like Chris Gaines.
Jeffrey.
Yes, sir.
Your third choice today, please.
So I, huge Bill Murray fan, loved him on SNL. I loved Meatballs. I loved Stripes. I loved Caddyshack. And then as a kid, I go into a movie theater in 1984, so I must have been, I guess, 8th grade or 9th grader, and it's the summer, I think it is, and see The Razor's Edge. And a
biopic of the wrestler, Razor Ramon.
Razor Ramon, yeah. Was there two of those guys? Was there like a Ramon Brothers, Razor Ramones?
No.
No? Okay, all right. Okay. Let me not question the wrestling.
I thought you were going to... It was. It could have been It could have been a Razor Ramon and The Edge teaming up.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
They could have been
a hell of a tag team.
Hell of a tag team.
Edge just hitting people with his guitar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a.
The other Edge. Sorry.
Movie.
The wrestler Edge. I thought you meant the U2.
No,
guitarist Edge. That's actually more interesting to me. But Jeff, go on.
And Bill Murray is in an adaptation of, I think, what was a favorite book of his, and it takes place in World War I, and he joins the military, and he gets put out on the front line, and he's an ambulance driver, and the whole audience is just waiting for him to be funny, and Bill Murray is just trying to do something kind of meaningful, and there is a soliloquy in the film in which he's speaking to a dead soldier, and he gives this soliloquy, and it had happened not maybe it was a year. I forget. Maybe it was less than a year after John Belushi had passed away, and it got out in the press at the time that was essentially Bill Murray's eulogy for John Belushi. So here's this movie in which we're all kind of expecting Bill Murray to be funny, and then there's this kind of maudlin but heartfelt eulogy for another film star who also tried to escape the big broad comedy trappings. Here's a guy who did The Continental Divide. He played the kind of milquetoast character in Neighbors. He was trying to get away from Samurai Night Fever
or Bluto.
Bluto. He was trying to stop being the fat punchline to jokes and maybe even get away from all those excesses that killed him eventually. So I think this is fascinating for me because it is an audience keeping an artist from doing something that expands their palette of colors to paint with as an artist, and it didn't work. It wasn't entertaining. It wasn't amazing. Bill Murray later on has shown us the pathos that he can come across in a character. I think starting with Ed Wood, then going into Rushmore, and then Lost in Translation, he can communicate a character who is experiencing and has experienced loss. And his face has always been written with pathos. His face has always been this Huckleberry Hound kind of face. But the beginning of a journey that he's very much succeeded on. But I think it also is maybe also the beginning of Bill Murray's performance art piece that is called Bill Murray, in which I'm going to disrupt your expectation of me. I'm going to defy whatever you think I should be to you, this thing which you would just want to play golf with me and you know,
go see a Cubs game.
Go see a Cub game, give you noogies, you know, or blow
maybe
up gophers or things
wander
like that.
into your wedding wedding photos or whatever.
Yeah. So I as a kid remember being disappointed. Then as a budding kind of cineast and aspiring filmmaker, realizing he was doing something, trying to do something different. I know Bill Murray, the day he wrapped on this film, the next day he goes off and does Ghostbusters and goes off to get back into that comedy pool. And that was the reason he got to do this film, because he agreed to do Ghostbusters.
Oh, was that part of the deal?
Yeah, so it set him back on this journey to be the doofus, hilarious guy that maybe he wanted to break free of.
There's a new Netflix series called The Movies That Made Us.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. If you've seen like The Toys That Made Us,
yeah.
Which is we've watched because I'm, a kid of the 80s, and it's just what you do. You watch things that make you feel good about when you were 11 years old. And they had a little bit about on the Movies That Made Us, they had one about Ghostbusters. Mm-hmm. And they're interviewing like Ivan Reitman and Dan Aykroyd, mm-hmm. and that's it. They don't talk to Bill Murray.
Yeah.
They obviously can't talk to Harold Ramis, but it's very interesting to hear about this movie, about how they were just on tenterhooks about, is he even gonna show up? He's like this notorious a-hole about everything.
Oh yeah,
he's kind of like in his own head. So hearing that this feels very much like a vanity project for him, mm-hmm. and he could do this because he could go do this buddy ghost movie seems accurate.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Reitman was saying for Meatballs, he didn't know that Bill Murray would even show up to tape until a day before or something.
That's what they
or
said.
Shoot. Yeah.
That's what they said about Ghostbusters too. It was like, we're shooting the next day, and then we don't know if he's going to be there, and then it's like, oh, here, Bill Murray's here.
Oh,
okay. I guess we're gonna go do this. Another interesting thing about that show, to plug a gigantic multi-billion-dollar corporation,
they can use it,
is Slimer had a butt.
Oh wow!
Really?
You look at the maquette of him,
mm-hmm.
and you see Slimer flying off and whatever. He's got this full-on ass.
Wow!
And it's just like, oh, I guess Slimer shits ectoplasm or something. There was a Slimer farting, I'm sure, at some point in the movie that they just edited out. But it's just Slimer's got a butt. That is very strange.
Thank you for making Ecto cooler much less appealing.
Nice choice there, Jeff.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Richard.
All right. So you had asked if a vanity project could also be good.
Yes.
I will give you one that, in my humble opinion, is quite good. And also a rare example of a vanity project that was done on a budget. Because I think when we think of vanity projects, we also, one of the things you think about is typically something that costs a lot of money.
For sure.
The words big budget tend to come before vanity project quite frequently. So this one was a vanity project by XTC's Andy Partridge.
Oh, wow.
The group was the Dukes of Stratosphear.
Oh, I love the Dukes of Stratosphere.
Yeah. So the basic story behind this is that Andy Partridge got fired from producing an album by Mary Margaret O'Hara, who was actually Catherine O'Hara's sister.
Really? Oh.
Who was like this kind of folk artist in the 80s.
Because she had a folk hit. I think she just... Never mind. Sorry.
No, it's okay. So basically, he's not religious, and she's a devout Catholic. And once that came out, she basically said, "I can't work with you."
Oh, wow.
So he went to the record label and said, "Well, you need to pay me for my time." And they said, "Well, how about we give you some studio time to do work on something?" And he had this project that he had been kind of thinking about since the 70s of what if you made an album of psychedelic hits. And it would be all original music, but it would be made by XTC, but we would put it out as some sort of silly psychedelic-sounding name, which they wound up being Dukes of Stratosphear, and have the label release it as such, and actually release it as, this was something that was found in our archives recently by the cult hit psychedelic band Dukes of Stratosphear from the 60s.
No, I hate this. Well, this is falling right in line with like the Chris Gaines false history thing.
It does, and they wound up getting $5,000 to record it. So the band, and he sprung this on the rest of the band, like literally, like, we're going to record in 2 weeks. Do you have any songs that are psychedelic? Because he had already written songs for this project, thinking maybe he'd get to do it someday. Which is kind of an a-hole thing to do.
Yeah.
So they get $5,000, and the whole thing was they had to record it using technology that was available in like 1968.
Oh, wow.
Only using instruments that were available in 1968. Kind of getting into the whole thing. They all took on personas. Andy Partridge was Sir John Johns as a homage to the comic book character.
Oh, sure.
And the thing is, it's an incredible. It was the original was a 6-song EP or 5-song EP.
What year did this come out?
This came out in 85, I think it was, or 84.
Okay.
And it actually, quite embarrassingly to everyone involved, it actually wound up outselling the last XTC album that had come out before it. So that was like, yay! Everyone really likes it. Oh, that's not good news for our general career. And basically each song, it takes a different style. So like the first song, Bike Ride to the Moon, is very much has very Pink Floyd elements. The last song, Mole in the Ministry, is basically the entirety of Sgt. Pepper Hearts Club Band kind of mushed into one song. It's fantastic. There are tribute bands. I know Jason Faulkner is part of a tribute band that does nothing but Duke songs. So they put out an album a few years later, a full album of Duke songs. So it's something that, if you're a fan of psychedelia, it's something that was a real touchstone, and it's a lot of fun to listen to. It's fun in a way that most vanity projects are not fun. That's something that I think most vanity projects wind up coming off as being turgid or overworked.
Yeah.
Yeah, I almost like the Shatner thing is the flip side of that, because the album's not good, the Shatner album, but it's fun.
Yeah,
and that's the difference between like that or this versus most vanity projects, like a Chris Gaines. That's not a fun listen. The Chris Gaines album.
The we are on the edge of our seats to seeing a new Star Wars movie. J.J. Abrams is coming back to direct the second time out of 2 of these last 3, and the first movie, The Force Awakens, when it came out, everyone was like complaining about how, it's just, you just took, went beat for beat, did the same notes of doing Star Wars. And I wonder, but there was also this return to form of doing a lot more on-set filming.
Right. A lot more practical.
A lot more practical effects, a lot more creature work. Some of these things that were kind of missing from like the prequels that George Lucas did. And I wonder though, but however, it was still a J.J. Abrams film. And it was still an ILM of 2015 film. 2014, 2015. So it still had all of the newfangled special effects, digital technology.
Yeah.
All of, it was all shined up. The stormtroopers were all shined up. And I wonder if a movie like that would have benefited from a point of view of an album made like this, of like, we're going to make this with this sort of technology, these sorts of instruments, this sort of production value. I wonder if it would have felt more like if you were to say like, okay, I'm going to make a movie that's kind of a redo of Star Wars. But you know what? I'm really not going to progress the technology and the filming aspects past 1983. I wonder if that would have been welcomed, or if them would have been like, you're a moron because Disney's giving you $250 million to make this movie. I don't know. There's an interesting thing here. I love the idea of an album made from the past.
Right.
That's fascinating. But at the same time, it's like, but who's really going to know? There's a part of me that's also like, well, that's an asshole thing to do, because really you're going to play a guitar that's only from 1968. Just play one from 1972. Who gives a shit?
Right.
Is there going to be someone that's going to be like, well, that's the wrong guitar, and be like, you don't fucking know.
And that's what I think takes this from being just an interesting side project to a vanity project, is that idea that we have to set these rules for ourselves and we have to follow it, and we're going to take on these personas. And when when the album came out, they didn't identify it as Dukes of Stratosphear, who are really XTC. They made the record company kind of keep up the mystery and not say who it was. That's what makes it a vanity project, and not just, hey, a kind of cool, interesting side project.
Nice one. Jeffrey.
Well, this Rundgren's Faithful, I think it's 19...
Yeah.
He re-records all these amazing songs from the year that he began in the music industry. I think he said it's 1966. So here's a guy who is acknowledging his influences almost to a boring technical extreme. Like,
right.
He doesn't remake Good Vibrations in Todd Rundgren's way. He does it as close to Brian Wilson as he possibly can.
Right.
And reading about Partridge, examining the punk movement and how punk's job was to shit on anything that came before and say, fuck you, that's broken, that's old, that's dumb. But he was saying, I've been imprinted on by these psychedelic songwriters and all these people, and it's in me. I can't pretend that it's not in me.
Right.
And I found a kind of similar band in this group called the Major Labels, Mike Viola, of the singer from That Thing You Do,
right,
and the Candy Butchers, and this guy named Blue, who had a release on Columbia Records called Redhead, and a producer from Boston named Ducky Carlisle. But they do these things that sound like AM radio from the 60s and 70s, and they list XTC, 10cc, McCartney, and Nilsson as influences. So it's not quite the trippy Strawberry Alarm Clock or anything like that.
Right.
But, yeah. Okay, George Lucas, Strange Magic. What the fuck was that?
Oh, is this your number 4?
This is my number 4.
Okay.
Strange Magic.
J-Ho.
Yeah.
Number 4?
Number 4.
George Lucas.
Yeah.
Strange Magic.
So here's this animated fantasy with all these crazy characters that has some...
I'm all in on this pick.
Has some music that I love, like in a way...
right up there with the Owls of Gahuli.
Yeah,
shit
totally,
that I will never fucking see, and I'm fascinated.
But I feel like it was kind of a love story set against using the fabric of all this music that he loved to tell this kind of simple fantasy love story with all these crazy creatures that probably weren't too far away from Yodas and Gungans and shit like that.
By the way, go back and watch Willow. It does not hold up.
Oh, it doesn't?
It is awful to watch.
But then if you look at American Graffiti, the music of that time, that is his biopic. Kids cruising around trying to find love in the streets, and music is such a fabric, a throughput. I don't think of Scorsese Lucas as this guy who lived in the now. He almost seems like Star Wars and all these things seem like they were a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. But that's one thing that I found in Strange Magic that I could kind of relate to, is like, oh, he's doing this crazy thing with these characters to just show how out of touch he is, and how he talked about it as kind of a female Star Wars, a coming of age film for young girls. But looking at it and how much popular music is the fabric of it, it made me think, oh, cool. He's going back to his American Graffiti kind of roots. But still, it's also like, I don't know if that was part of his deal with Disney because they distributed it or something like that. So it almost seems like Lucas couldn't get them to do Star Wars the way he wanted to. So he's just going to do his own damn movie, and they're going to have to distribute it.
Can you imagine being this guy that had worked so much of his life outside the system that had become the number, obviously George Lucas, creator of Star Wars and Industrial Lights and Magic, known for working outside the system, is just like making some goofy ass fairy tale movie for Disney, or distributed by Disney.
It was actually started work on it before the Lucasfilm Disney, but then it came out after.
Okay.
He is such an odd duck as a person,
but I guess
as a creator, as like this.
Who says that Vanity is a bad thing necessarily?
No, that was the question. That was the question that I thought of halfway through.
In his vanity, like a narcotic, made him believe in himself, even though he had weird, oddball ideas. Like THX 1138 is just weird, and not too different than some dystopian sci-fi stuff. But all these studios turned down this script from this guy who did this hugely successful American Graffiti, but he believes in it, and he has this vision. And not only do you have to make a movie, you have to make all the visual effects apparatus and stuff to do that movie. Like, it's almost like the Vanity is this, if we called it self-reliance, and if we called it confidence, then it's okay, right? But Vanity says this, it's a deadly sin.
This is a nice choice. I don't know if I'm going to choose it. I'm just going to say,
okay.
Right? I don't know if I'm going to choose it. If you were to say,
who does he think he is?
I'm going to say this. If you were to say,
judging us,
if you were to pull the George Lucas made a movie called Star Wars, and the lead character's name was Luke S. I would have been like, well, this is hands down the winningest choice. The savior of the galaxy is
Luke
the person with his
S.
name with Luke S.
Perfect.
Very interesting choice to round it out, though.
My favorite thing about this movie, having
Owls of Gahuli?
No.
Okay.
The other
Strange
one.
Magic. Red Tails, the other one?
was what I found reading the Wikipedia over the last 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Because apparently this thing cost like $100 million to make.
Oh, my goodness.
But Lucas said that he had a lot of Beatles songs that he wanted to use, but, quote, well, we tried to use them, but they were just too expensive.
Oh.
It's like, you're George freaking Lucas.
Yeah.
How can you are a quadrillionaire at this point?
Well,
how can you possibly not have the money to license a few Beatles songs?
He sunk $2.1 billion or however much it is into like the museum of basically like
of George Lucas.
The museum of like one picture next to another picture and being like, that's art.
I would love it if they were like songs like Obladi, Oblada. Like,
he just really wanted Octopus's garden.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
I'm spent.
You guys have done a great job today.
Oh, thanks, Michael.
Jeffrey, I know it's tough for you to come in here and act as the person,
a participant.
the barrister. You're here. You are arguing something rather than judging. Mm-hmm. And Richard, fine work as always.
Oh, thank you.
My choices are as thus. Jeffrey. No, Richard.
Yeah.
Paul McCartney. Give my regards to Broad Street.
Oh.
It's a movie that has come up a number of times on this podcast, a couple times. Mm-hmm. And it just makes me think, I got to see this. Whatever this thing is, makes me want to see it.
Yeah, you really, for your own good, you need to.
Richard, you're going to get another set of points.
Okay.
For M. Night Shyamalan's The Lady in the Water. Because that is one of those is like, as soon as you described it as like the the guy that is the
going to save the world with his writing.
Yeah.
Great choice. Jeffrey.
Shit. Some shutout so far. Yeah.
Jeffrey. William Shatner.
Thank you. I appreciate your vote. Oh, he got the Borglum bag.
No. Oh, I do have a Borglum bag.
Oh my God, really?
I do. Actually, I also have a President Garfield impression that I was going to do.
Mondays, right?
I totally forgot about. I was trying to work on my Ohio accent, and I realized there is no Ohio accent. My Borglum bag choice would have been the Donald Trump presidency.
Oh, okay.
That's good.
Because really, it's all about him just putting his name on everything and getting rid of Obama's legacy, yada, yada, yada. But the other choice that, Jeff, for you is The Razor's Edge.
Oh, okay.
Good one.
I was moved by your feeling of that as like a child or as someone that's coming up being like, oh, I'm so disappointed by you.
Yeah. Okay. It was a very, very disappointing thing. And I think the flip side of that was when Ghostbusters came out, I was so happy to see his return to form. That was the only film that I think I've seen twice in a theater the same day. That the day it came out, I was so excited that Bill Murray was back. I grabbed some buddies and said, we got to go. He's back. We got to go back into the film.
It doesn't count if you just hid from the
we paid. Well, I bought two different admissions. I bought two separate admissions.
Well, I'd like to thank everybody for listening to the podcast today. I'd like to thank my two friends, Richard and Jeffrey, for being here as always. I'd like to say tune in to our next episode, our 200th episode. 200.
What the hell?
200. I remember almost 2 years ago when we were out here for our 100th at Jeffrey's house.
Yeah.
The barbecue.
Having a barbecue, having everybody on. I wonder what the 200th episode is going to be like. It's not going to be that.
If there's even such things like podcasts back in the future.
Well, for the Mount Rushmore podcast, my name is Michael.
I'm Richard.
I'm Jeff.